Hi, I'm Deborah,
And I'm Lawrence.
and we're going to talk in this video about Halloween for kids and teens with anxiety and what some of the problems that they might run into. And so, this is another one of our videos that are for both kids slash teens and their parents. So, one of the things that causes a lot of anxiety for kids and for teens is costumes. Um, we didn't have this when I was a kid and teen because pretty much
You weren't
at
cool.
like 11, no, at 11 that was it. No one went out trick or treating after that, and we didn't wear
I
costumes
don't
to
go trick or
school.
treating, but I wear a
But we didn't
costume.
wear costumes to school. Only little kids wore costumes to school, so this wasn't a thing. So especially for parents, they may not realize how much anxiety can be um, can come out of this. For one thing, if you have a kid or if you are a kid who's being bullied or teased a lot, you know that probably no matter what you do, you're going to get teased about your costume. So for parents, if you know your kid is having some problems, then you have to realize that that's going to be a point of anxiety for them. So just in general, then also there's just the anxiety, even among kids that aren't being teased about their costume being cool. And apparently a lot of also teenage girls especially will dress all alike, and then there's anxiety over that too. So this is can be, especially for kids with anxiety, this can be a lot more complicated than a lot of people would think. So, just advice first of all for parents. I know it's really frustrating if you spend a lot of time and money on the costume, and your child has seemed really excited about it, and then all of a sudden the day comes and they don't want to wear it to school, and you might be confused. But the best thing to do is to have your child bring their costume to school. If they change their mind, great. If not, that's fine. You just have to remember when you have a child who has anxiety that you may not really understand, why this is causing them anxiety, but
I think
um,
that's just for children in general. I
huh.
won't understand them.
Well, yeah. I mean, you won't understand everything that's going on in your kid's life and your kid's brain and everything, but it's not worth the stress it's going to cause your child to push them into wearing the costume. Um, and that's just it's up to them. It's not a life or death decision. As I said, just let them bring it to school, and if they change their mind, great, it's there. Um, so, and for kids and teens, I know this is easy for me to say, but if I could go back and talk to um, myself when I was a kid or a teen, the main thing I'd say is, why do you care what anyone thinks? Basically, if you like your costume and it makes you feel good when you're wearing it, who really, what difference does it make what anyone else thinks? I know that takes a certain amount of bravery, really, to just say I don't care what anyone else thinks, because obviously we all know what peer pressure is like and being the odd person out and everything. But you know, if it makes you happy and if it makes you feel good, right?
And
Then
then wear it.
then wear it. Yeah. And so then the other thing that can be a real stressful situation for kids with anxiety and or kids with social anxiety is trick or treating. And as a parent, you may not really understand this, especially if you don't have social anxiety. You never had social anxiety. Um,
Whoa! Around elementary school is when I started getting socially anxious because of the kind of environment there. I wasn't, I was always worried. I was worried because, you know, as my mom always says, I went from this really open kid who wanted to be friends with everyone to this kid who's kind of just
yeah.
like persists to this day. I still have trouble in social situations sometimes.
Yeah, from the bullying and teasing, it
Yeah,
really
it
made
screws with you.
yeah, it really made it made such a huge change. Um, but before that, no, you were not at all like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, believe me, I remember. It was pretty painful when things changed for you. But I mean, for me, I always had social anxiety. I mean, you know, my mom, for instance, never had social anxiety, was very outgoing. She never really understood, like, I couldn't stand even going house to house selling Girl Scout cookies. And this was in the neighborhood.
Wait, you were a Girl Scout?
Yeah. Yeah. I was a brownie and a Girl
What
Scout.
the?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was horrible. Like having to sell magazines, having to go store to door selling things, talk to people I didn't know very well. But anyway, so again, you know, from a parent's point of view, you may not really understand. I mean, actually, for me, I didn't have a lot of social anxiety with Halloween because we everyone in the neighborhood, I knew them really well, and it was expected that you were going to ask for candy. I always felt weird asking for things, but you know, and we knew all the families pretty well, so it wasn't stressful. But you know, things aren't really like that anymore. You don't have those neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone. Some places you do, but a lot of times people, what they'll do is they'll take their kids for trick or treating. Like they may be in a real quiet neighborhood like we are, so they may take their kids to an area that has a lot of houses close together
So
and
you
everything.
can get candy.
Yeah, but so then the problem is for the kid who has social anxiety, then it can be
It's
really,
gonna be an uncomfortable situation for them.
yeah, it is going to be an uncomfortable situation for them.
I think actually once I went trick or treating in this really populated neighborhood with a friend, and it was like away from here, from our house, and so I was kind of like stressing because I was like, I don't know this area, I don't know these people, I know like one or two people, and I'm walking with them, and then once they kind of just walked away and left me, and I was just freaking out for a minute because I was like, I have no idea where I am, I have no idea who these people are, but I think that's kind of a normal thing. Sorry to.
Yeah, and this is actually, well, this is actually also an illustration of what a difference bullying and teasing can make. Because before, when you were younger, before this whole thing at elementary school, we went to that area of where my sister lived, and they had Harry Potter. They had the whole neighborhood did a Harry Potter thing where each house was like a Harry Potter location.
They had a theme every year,
and he had no problem with social anxiety at all. And this was before elementary
school. Didn't I go
school.
dressed as Boba Fett?
I don't remember.
Yes,
we went a few years in a row.
Or Django. I can't
remember. Yeah. One of the years you were. One year you were a little devil. One year you were Darth Vader.
I think that persisted. I think I've always been that, but whatever.
If you're a parent and your child is very anxious about the idea of trick or treating, then if they have a therapist, you might want to talk to their therapist and see if you know the therapist can do something to help. But if not, either if they don't have a therapist or it doesn't help, I understand that in your mind, if you had a great time when you were a kid trick or treating, you don't want your child to miss out on this experience. But the problem is, if your child has anxiety, then it's not going to be a fun experience. It's going to be really, really, really stressful. So, you know, you can make a bargain with them. You know, why don't we go out and just try doing it and see what happens? You know, maybe things will change. You know, maybe they've built this up into their mind, and when it actually comes down to it, they're not as anxious. But if either they absolutely say no, they're not going out, or they go out and they just can't do it, just, you know what, don't make a big deal out of it. Say, okay, fine, why don't we go back? We'll hand out candy, or we'll watch we'll watch a movie.
Although handing out candy is pretty boring. I remember the year I got a concussion, and y'all
Right.
wouldn't let me leave the house.
When he had a concussion, he didn't get the concussion from Halloween.
They wouldn't let me leave the house.
You weren't supposed to be doing anything.
You were afraid of me falling, cracking my head on a curb.
Okay.
I would have been fine.
Well, anyway, I can't see in the dark, for one thing. You do remember that,
I
right?
could have gone by myself.
No, you had a concussion. You couldn't go out.
Be quiet. I had to sit there handing out candy because neither of you wanted to do it.
I know your life has just been
It's been horrible.
I
It's
know.
been tragic.
He had a lot of good Halloweens. Let's just put it that way. This was one Halloween. Again, you may just be like, I don't want my child to miss out on that. It's not going to be fun for them if you're pushing them into it.
You can't force them to go out.
Not with anxiety. If you want to, then the next year have their therapist, work on this ahead of time. And
I mean, you can obviously be like, hey, this is going to be a fun experience from what I know. But if you're really not comfortable with it, it's fine. But I mean, like, you can like gently be like, hey, this is something you should do because it's cool. But if they are like, hey, no, I really don't want to, that's the time where you are like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to judge for your child, and past experience. And try this every year. I mean, every year, talk to your child. And again, if your child has a therapist, then work on this. It may be something that they'll be able to get past. But, you can also do things like focus on other aspects of the holiday. Make decorations with them to decorate the house. Make Halloween cookies. There are a lot of things you can do. Make crafts and stuff. A lot of things you can do to make it an enjoyable holiday. Celebrating, the holiday of Hallows Eve.
Demons, something like that.
Samhain, yeah, and the
ghosts and ghoulies.
Yeah. But there are other ways they can participate in this, besides trick-or-treating and besides wearing a costume. They can still enjoy a lot of things that go along with Halloween.
Like giving yourself diabetes by eating about 12 metric tons of candy.
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Sure. Yeah. So anyway, we hope this has been helpful. And if it has, consider giving it a thumbs up and
if you want to say anything, say it in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to see some comments on, ways that if you've been able to, deal with any of these problems and can help other people, that would be fantastic.
And if you enjoy the content that we make, consider subscribing to the channel to see even more of that come out. Because, more subscribers we have, the more inclined we are to make the videos, because we know people are actually watching.
We'll still make the videos. We enjoy making the videos, and
it boosts our ego.
We like helping people.
Indeed.
And putting the information out there. I've been doing that for people with depression since '95.
True.
And so we really like helping. Helping people, bringing information and advice and stuff for people.
In any case, we hope that this video was enjoyable and hopefully informative, and we hope that you have a nice day.
Take care.